welcome everybody. Next Friday, next Backupmonster Show episode. So welcome. Just please be comfortable, sit down, grab your coffee, whatever you have right now, and let's ready to have another discussion, another guest. And my guest today is Nicolas Groh from the Rubrik. Nicolas, hello.
Morning, Paweł. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Another Friday, as you said. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so actually asked you this question a few minutes ago. So you are in Switzerland right now, yes? So what are you
Correct.
doing there? What are you doing there?
We had a big conference event with one of our partner, which is called the Insomni Hack, which is basically a conference where you can see multiple vendors, but also actually hack in live an actual machine and software. So it's 700 people this morning that will attempt to hack one software live.
So the people are going to attend to be hacked, actually.
No, to hack. So there is
To
one
hack.
machine, one network. It's 700 people coming in and actually trying to hack in the whole stuff.
Okay, great. So actually, this is a good subject that you mentioned. So because we'll lots of talk about the security and how to maybe not hacking, but maybe how to prevent to be hacked, or what to
Exactly.
do in case of we be already has exposed and be attacked. So. Nicola, a little bit about yourself. If you could introduce yourself, what's your role in Rubrik? So this will be a good start, yes, for our
Yeah.
conversation.
So I'm one of the field CTO. I'm 6 years at Rubrik now. I've actually been in the backup industry for 21 years. So it's slowly getting there. I was 19 years old when I first discovered what a backup was, and 21 years after, I'm still there, still enjoying it. And
Mhm.
my job is really to actually help out our customer, really advise customers on how to go forward, actually take input from them to ensure basically that our product actually match their needs. And that is, I think, super important, especially right now with how the world evolves, how the threats are evolving. If our product are not evolving at the same pace, we will end up in trouble.
Yeah. So like you said, 21 years. So first question, how what actually the major change, this switch that you've seen in a data protection field, and for how long you are in the Rubrik right now?
6 years.
6 years. Okay, so combining 21, 6. So what was the major change when you joined the Rubrik, from the philosophy perspective, the mission? Because, if somebody knows Rubrik, they know that Rubrik has its own way how to promote, how to build the awareness. So for those who maybe do not know the Rubrik, so here we are and we'll have a discussion. But what was your impression, when you joined the company?
So actually, it's interesting. I've been working for backup vendors before, because that was, I think, the easiest for me to actually grow my career. And we've seen a lot of changes actually, and it's not only on how, it's also on what to protect. I mean, I've witnessed the start of VMware. I've witnessed the start of virtualization as a whole. I started working, we only had physical machines. So that was a change. And then the cloud came in, and that was, quite a different set. And now we can see SaaS applications, like machines that you don't know, you don't own, you don't have access to, you can only use them. But still, you are actually putting all your data, personal data, company data into it. So it's, when you think about it and go backwards 21 years, there's quite a bit that have happened. And I actually remember the first time I was traveling in Sweden at that time, and I was in an hotel room somewhere in Stockholm, and I was actually watching YouTube, and I was actually, well, I don't know how it appeared, but I suddenly saw a web UI that was mind blowing, simple, easy, taking away everything that I knew from before, like bringing that idea of it doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, it's a backup. Why would you have to think about how it should be done? Let me just do that in few clicks. And that was Arvini Trakashap, Rubrik CTO, my boss, that was actually presenting that at a webinar, pretty much as what we're doing right now.
Okay.
And that was 7 years ago. And that's when I decided there is something there. This is the new thing.
Yeah, and to be honest, the Rubrik, or even if I'm comparing, the Storware, we actually set it up, the companies quite in the same year. So going into the VMware, it wasn't, we wasn't the first choice. It was many players on the market. The Magic Quadrant looks different 10 years ago, and it was hard to, think that the legacy platforms that were architected and designed in 90s, everybody thought that they will still, on top on the list. I remember, when the Veeam came up, my friend came to Veeam like in 2010 and said, where are you going? This is a like 25 people company. I remember the VCB for the VMware, the change in how the script base protecting the VMs.
Yeah.
Then the vStorage API came, so it was innovative. Right now we have a VAI for the VMware, so lots of traction even in the VMware. So I like that you said that we have a significant switch from the physical through the virtual right now containers and a SaaS. But the simplification, when I first time saw the Rubrik, I have the same impression. So to be honest, and I said, wow, it's so easy. And I saw that somebody took a really good attention how to do it in a proper way, the Apple way, the easy user experience.
Exactly.
So somebody took the really attention how to simplify the whole process. So I had the same impression when I first saw the Rubrik. Even I came and said to the guys, "Hey, this is how we should work. Yes, do not think too much. Just give the people place to think about the other processes, not only about how to properly set it up." But that was a Rubrik that I knew 8 years ago. But I think it wasn't too much. But maybe I'm making a mistake right now. So please correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't too much about the data security. Even I think Rubrik didn't use the term that time.
Not yet, right?
Not yet.
That's an evolution, but that's an evolution that we actually took super early in the process. I'm in Rubrik since March 2017, and in June 2017, one of our founder actually came to Paris to visit me and the others, of course. But we had a big chat about what we can do, how we can do better, what we should actually go for. And one of our customers at that time was attacked by ransomware already in 2017. And basically the customer, thanks goodness, their backup weren't affected because Rubrik is immutable. So they could actually go back. And it went pretty smoothly. But the customer was, why didn't you warn me about the whole thing? Because you could have seen the encryption. You were doing the backup every day. And that's how the whole thing started to, get to tuition. And we knew we wanted to do more. The whole mantra of Rubrik was always bring value out of the backup. And that was one of the value we could actually add. So it is a long way back that we actually started with the whole data security idea and trying to bring value for the customer on what matters the most.
Hmm. So right now, and so I think you've been the first that you really emphasize the security matter. So the data protection platforms should be much more closer to the security guys, because in the end, both teams caring about the data itself, and the data is 21st century oil. So we should be really careful. And unfortunately, the numbers of the ransomware or different malwares keep the attention here. Uh, but what actually right now, when you speak with the customers, because I read lots of blogs, see on the social media how the different people from the Rubrik saying our immutability, our air gap is a little bit different than the other players. I don't want to right now go into the specific, shooting the competition, but what actually, the biggest differentiator that you're saying, because you're saying, okay, the data security matters. We need to think about it, and the backup should be much more closer to the security. But what specific technologies allowing you to be much more closer, for example, than your today competition?
I think it really goes down to those two things: the ability to actually protect the data and be sure about it, and the ability to reuse the data directly from within the actual application, from within the software, and not having third-party software doing stuff in the whole thing, because we
Mhm.
know it. Unfortunately, third-party software, that's a door. That's a door open to everything. I mean, supply chain attack is one of the biggest threat that we're seeing in the market right now. And unfortunately for everyone, I mean, every kind of company can be impacted by it. And that's really what we need to ensure that customers are protected from. And for that, you need to have an actual way of creating that kind of sanctuary for your data. And for that, what we do is to actually have everything built into our own file system. Proprietary, everything designed in-house, of course. But the idea is really to have something completely air-gapped within the Rubrik cluster, that nothing can actually touch the file system, talk to the file system if it's coming from outside, and that everything within the Rubrik cluster has to be authenticated, double authenticated before you can do anything. And that's where the whole principle of zero trust matters, because even within the Rubrik cluster itself, even inside, we don't even trust ourselves. We will double check on that. And that is really the key idea, I think. It's about ensuring that even internals cannot damage your own data. And that should be one of the first things that every company applies within, not only within the backup, but within everything. I mean, that is really something we need to push. Yourself, myself, everyone in the industry. We're not the one that will be doing the wrong stuff, but people that are not used to it could be, because they get access or they don't, but suddenly they have, and you end up clicking on the right thing at the wrong time. And
Yeah,
that's where things starts to get messy.
I like the message that we should build the data sanctuary. I really like it. And zero trust. I will come back to the zero trust in a
Mhm.
second. We need to also be reminded that Rubrik has the scale out philosophy. So you are just putting the bricks. So there is no right now chance to. So you have only the one way how to enhance the another terabyte into the system. So you cannot right now put the external system into the Rubrik. So it's a
Correct.
fully managed, and must work inside on your rules without any exceptions right now. So of course, simplification from the scale out to so building on top. Uh, but what when you have a customers who, let's say, saying we would like to, let's say, build a Rubrik based on our own hardware? Is it possible right now, or it's only the appliance right now?
No, it is possible. You can actually use third-party hardware from various vendors of the market with specific machines, with
Mhm.
specific amount of CPU, specific amount of memory, because we are quite a big consumer of our own CPU and memory, and that's why we need to have a minimum. So we will actually give that to the customer, and if the specs are met, then we're perfectly fine actually installing it on anything else.
Mhm. And what about zero trust? You said that you don't even trust your system, so you need to double check and see what's going on. So I understand that you have some specific mechanism, checking mechanism against the ransomware or different malwares. So could you a little bit deep dive onto it, how the zero trust works inside the Rubrik, and how we applied this philosophy to your engine?
Yeah, it's. I think it's too early. People that don't have enough coffee yet, but I will try to keep that in mind and not go too deep. And the idea is, in fact, actually simple in the sense that we will store everything within our file system. Our file system cannot be accessed from outside the Rubrik cluster. Everything that gets access to the Rubrik cluster needs to be authenticated. You need to have, for example, MFA, you need to have TOTP, for example. So you need to have a token to get inside the Rubrik cluster. And we are enforcing that. We're the first backup company, I think, that actually enforces a multi-factor authentication. But we also actually bring what we call TPR, two-person rule. So it's the full high principle, if you will, where you actually need multiple people to potentially do destructive things on the Rubrik cluster, because you don't want hackers to actually get inside. Because unfortunately, we know it's the first thing that they do. And if you think about it, it is actually smart in the sense that, and that goes for, I think, everyone connected to the webinar. Think about it. You are a hacker. You get inside a customer environment. How do you know where data that you can steal are? Answer is actually simple. Log into the backup software. Check
Yeah.
for everything which is named.
This is the best backdoor, yes, with all of the access, without any accesses in most cases.
And it's not only accesses. You can see what's. I mean, look at the backup policy name: critical, gold, production,
Yeah.
do not touch. I mean, that's a gold mine for the hackers. And what they will do is simple. Okay, gold, fine. What are the machines? Oh, it's this one. Fine. Let's actually try and get onto that one. It's so don't go up and all change your policy name. I don't think that's the best way, but maybe. But that is unfortunately a true fact. Hackers will use all that against you. So unfortunately, you have to take actions to protect it. And that is really about ensuring that no one can tamper with the backup afterwards. Just imagine what they will do. They have access to the whole thing. They can see the policies. They know what they need to access. Now they get access to it. It takes them months to actually elevate privilege and all that, but that's fine. They have time. You don't know they are there. So what can they do then? They would just reduce the retention. You had 31 days in your backup policy, they're going to put 21. You won't see it because the backup software would just erase things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And that's the normal way. That's backup software is done. You tell it it's 31, it's 30, and just remove 2 days. And that's it. And once they actually manage to remove enough, then they strike. And then you're in trouble. So the best thing is to ensure that nobody can change the retention. And if you think about it, that's actually a business risk. So not even the admin should be able to modify that. Not even the admin. If the admin of your backup system can change your retention, you're already in trouble.
So you don't even trust the admins right now. This is what I understand.
Not anymore. I know, I've been an admin myself.
You don't have a lot of friends in the admin world right now, I see. Do not trust admins. They can. So okay. So you're saying you cannot. So who can change? Is a let's say workflow? So you need to have a double check. So I understand that I cannot change as an admin. So I need to have approval from the second
Correct.
second part. Yeah. So third party,
Correct.
let's say. So second
Exactly.
admin, which I should also not trust.
Well, it shouldn't be an admin, because if you are actually changing a backup policy, that is a potential risk to the company. So it should be up to potentially the CISO or the risk
Mhm.
officer or anybody else. And that actually kind of makes sense if you think about it. You should have that kind of segregation of duty between the two, and ensuring that the backup admin and security officer are talking to each other. I mean, you've been mentioning it earlier. We should all work together on that, because in the end, we are doing the same job, protecting the company assets, protecting the company data. And
You know what I see many times. We talk with the companies and they saying we have a really strict access to our data, to Microsoft 365, the databases, and they forgetting and giving the backup admin all of the accesses with the potential viewing all of the necessary details, and
everything.
nobody cares because they do not know how influence and big power has the backup admin. And it's sometimes funny when the security people, they don't even know that giving the credential to the databases, to the Microsoft 365, exposed all of the data and confidentiality here.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. I mean, when I was a backup admin 20 years ago, I had like Oracle access. I had the SAP password. I had the Notes, Lotus Domino system. Jesus, it feels old to say that.
Yeah, but we remember the Lotus Notes, right down
Yeah,
HCL,
lots of
HCL,
people
not
remember.
IBM. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, that's your morning remembrance domino. But but that's it. I had every domino access. I needed it to do the backup, to do the restore, because you didn't have any other choice at that time. You were the admin. You had to be the admin to be able to do a mail restore. And then suddenly people realize, but that means you can read emails. Well, at least I can read the subject.
Evgeny is saying, I've been always thinking why backup vendors so unaware about the problem. Uh, Question is, are the backup vendors unaware, or they just focusing on the different aspects? Yes, so it's a question about the priorities and the mission that the specific backup vendor brings to the market.
But it's not. Frankly, it's not the. And I'm on the backup vendor side, so yeah, I know I'm going to be biased. But it's not really the backup vendor issue if you think about it. Do you, as a application software developer, think that you will need someone with ability to read everything but not write anything? Do you have an actual backup operator? 20 years ago, that didn't exist. 10 years ago, it started. We started to see backup operators in NetApp. We're starting to see that in Oracle, etc., etc. But it didn't start it that long ago. So it's not really a backup vendor issue, because backup vendor doesn't care. Give me a user, I will use that user, and that's it. So it is really about the application, and that's unfortunately what we all need to take into account.
So what is the Nicola? What is the golden rule in a zero trust? So how many people should be involved? Typically, when you speak with your customers, yes. So what's the answer here? How you advise, let's say, the entrepreneurs or the business units, when you speak with the C-level management, yeah. How you approaching the zero trust? So I'm just curious, and I would like to share this knowledge with the audience.
And what I think is super important, especially right now, is to really bring back CIOs and CISOs. We are, I think, lucky in lots of organization in Europe. We actually have the CIO and the CISO being two separate entities reporting to the board of directors, not actually being one under the other, which I think is good, because you need to have that segregation. But it doesn't mean they shouldn't work together. And that's what we see a lot, unfortunately, is that those people sometimes they don't talk. And that's why you start having discrepancies about what you want to protect and how you want or how you are actually protecting it, and who should have access, who should do what, and all that. So we really need to bring those two more together, actually get traction between the various teams to handle those security concerns. Because in the end, security is everyone's business in the IT. And it should be. It should be like that. We should all first think about security before thinking about anything else. And that's, I'm going to say, sadly, it's getting true in your own life as well. I mean, have you hardened your own internet box at home? If not, maybe you should. So it's really a mindset that we all should start getting into.
Mhm. A question also, because I heard about lately, it was quite, in the press, that you started some alliance with the more alliance with the Microsoft, regarding the cloud protection. Could you a little bit tell more? Because what I also see lately, that many vendors right now build the alliances between the biggest companies. Later on, we'll speak about the alliance between the Rubrik and Storware, but let's put it as a dessert. But right now, I'm more keen about to hear the Microsoft and the Rubrik, because also you put a lots of traction going into the cloud, and building also the SaaS offering, etc. So if you could a little bit explain us the key principles behind this cooperation.
And in fact, it goes back a long way. We've always been working with cloud vendors at the beginning as a third-party storage and being able to archive data of Rubrik to the cloud for long-term retention, for example. And we can do that with AWS since the beginning, with Azure very quickly after. And in fact, when we released our ransomware investigation feature in 2018, Microsoft reached out because they were interested about this. They were also interested about what we do with our sensitive data discovery feature, which allows to go down into the files and actually surface what type of data is in there. It's not about DLP, it's about what is physically inside what you're backing up. And that was super interesting for them, especially because of, well, OneDrive. If you think about it, OneDrive usage since March 2020. I don't know what happened that year, but I mean, everybody's using it, or a lot of people actually started using Teams, and then suddenly they discovered OneDrive and they started to exchange files through it, and that's pretty much how it got traction. We were already supporting Office 365 emails and all that, but then suddenly that whole new way of working, of doing business started, and putting data into it was, well, the next step. Protecting the data into it and getting insights about the data into it, that's really what actually meant a lot for Microsoft, and that's why we have so much traction. So we have that alliance between the two companies in order to ensure that we can deliver the best of our features to Microsoft applications. And that goes with Office 365, but as well on-premises workloads.
You know what happened in 2020? Los Angeles Lakers won the championship. So they didn't have enough crowd. They didn't have enough crowd. I don't know what's happened there, but it happens, yeah. So the Lakers
must have been that.
Okie doke. But so Microsoft, you have the SaaS offering. So this is a little bit change, because the Rubrik, in most cases, I don't know the numbers, of course, but in most cases, you put in the brick inside, you can easily scale up, but it's much more data center approach. So you can replace the existing legacy backups with much more, let's say, with new approach dedicated to the security and the data security part. But then we go into the Microsoft 365, and then just actually lately realized that if you have a Microsoft, you have a cloud to cloud offering. You cannot put this data on-prem. So question why we cannot go on-prem. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but this is another, let's say, change that Rubrik is going into the backup as a service approach. Let's put it, for example, Metallic from the Commvault as a player on the market, because every vendor has a little bit different approach. So I would like to better understand yours.
And I think it's really mainly about the cost to the customer, because we all know about it, taking data out of the cloud as a cost. And that's a cost that we didn't think was wise for the customer to have to, entertain pretty much. So being able to actually offer a backup as a service target on the back of our, Office 365, but also the rest, Azure, AWS protection, was what we think was the most sensible, just because of that cost approach. And it's really, we can see customers going to the cloud at some pace. I would say Europe has always been a bit more reluctant or slower to adopt the cloud, but we do see it. We do see a lot of customers, depending on the industry, depending on the vertical, going to the cloud, and sometimes going to multiple clouds, sometimes going to one cloud and realizing that it could actually be cheaper somewhere else, and moving clouds to another cloud. And we've seen some very successful customer actually doing it. A lot of customers have actually been closing data centers just because they moved to the cloud, and they did that backing up their data wherever it was with Rubrik. So it is something that we are saying, it is something that I think will go on to an extent. I don't think every customer will go to the cloud, but there will be a big load actually having bits of the environment into the cloud, just because of the cloud economics. And for that, you'll have data and you'll need to back it up.
Is there any plans to go through the Microsoft 365 or the other workloads? Comparing to the Metallic, for example, offering. Can you share this information? Just
There is no, for everything SaaS, there is no appliance that you need to install into the cloud. It is really going directly from the Microsoft backplane to Rubrik's backplane, which is hosted on Microsoft as well. So it's actually not moving too far. But it is something that we can do. If you want to protect your workloads in the cloud as you are into your on-premises world, it is something that we can do. And it really depends how you want to handle stuff. And there is not one solution for everyone. It really depends on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how you want to actually achieve the whole thing. And that's a very interesting discussion, I would say, with a lot of customers. What they doing and how they doing it is sometimes super clever, and I'm just sad I didn't think about it before.
Okay, so but I like the approach that putting the Rubrik inside the Azure. You're saying it's much more closer. So definitely from the numbers of the workloads and the data that we need to provide to the different both ways. Yes, so backup and restoration can have definitely benefits, and the paying money from taking the data outside the cloud, it always costs additional money. This is how the cloud is built, and nobody wants to grab the data outside, because
Exactly.
they losing the money if you taking the data. So let's focus about now. So we talk about the Microsoft, we talk about the VMware. So I think this is a good place to talk about our cooperation that we started, because the first time when we met, so we started the discussion between how to actually put the KVM or the other workloads beside the Hyper-V and the VMware into the Rubrik appliances, with all of the good things that Rubrik provides to the market. And then we started the discussion, okay, what if we could ingest the data from the store into the Rubrik. And the good news is it's already work.
Exactly.
We're using the manage volumes SLA right now to make it happen. And Rubrik right now is one of the enterprise backup providers for the Storware to allowing send the data from the KVM based and also Zen based hypervisors. Because what we seen, that the KVM is all the time rising. There is not official numbers right now how the big KVM install base is, but we got some numbers that 10 years ago it was like 15%, and right now is growing. I don't want to say significantly that VMware is not losing a lot right now the market, but we can see the switch that after the Broadcom acquisition and many of the enterprise customers maybe not pushing, but they building the new projects, the big projects based on the OpenStack KVM based hypervisors, not only because of the VMware, but because of some strength of the KVM technology behind the scenes. I would like to ask you how you see this potential cooperation, and do you see the KVM based installation around Europe, the place when you are mainly working?
And I think it's not only the VMware situation or the evolution of the other hypervisor. I think KVM evolved quite a bit, Rev evolved quite a bit, and even if you look at the smaller things like Proxmox, I mean, we have a lot of customers that we talk to every day, especially educations, which are running everything on Proxmox, and it's actually I mean, quite big environment sometimes. Lots of students actually running everything on Proxmox without knowing about it, and that is a really interesting shift in the sense that we're getting really those hyper converged type of model and virtualization type of model to the masses, pretty much. And with that, we needed to provide something to the customers. And what you're doing in that matter since the beginning is, I mean, top notch. I'm not saying that because it's you. It's actually true. I mean, I've been looking at many others, vendors and software providers, and what you're doing is above the whole thing. And that's why we found that actually having that integration was making the most sense. Because in the end, I mean, if you want to have something great, let's actually talk directly to the guys that provide the most advanced features onto it, and that way you ensure success pretty much. So that is really why we started the whole conversation, the two of us, and I think it's something that we will see growing. We can see Kubernetes also taking over a bit, but that is not. I would say that is not the same verticals. There will be adoption on par on both ways. I think Kubernetes will be used in a lot of very, very large organizations, while the whole KVM will actually surface in everything else. And that's why we need to be ready.
But also I read lots of materials and the reports and saying that the Kubernetes world will take. There are some assumptions that they will take roughly about the 7% of the whole virtualization market. So I'm not believing that if somebody's saying it's a new revolution, the virtualization will go down. It's, to be honest, it's a bullshit for me, because there is no sense right now to fully containerize the world. The virtualization is good. It's more with us for more than 20 years right now, and it has its own simplicity, easy of usage, and nobody will tell me right now that the building the orchestrator will makes your life easier. It's easier for the microservices application when you have a different shift how to develop and how to expose, let's say, for example, the front end app into the seconds using the containers. But let's remember that for the 20, 30 years, there was app more built on the monolith approach, and the VMs will be still with us.
And
But
follow
but but I see that with the VMware, it's going on a little bit exactly what it's happened with the servers or the storages. It started to be a commodity. Nobody's right now caring about, to be honest, because most of the vendors, KVM and the VMware Hyper-V, you have a subset of the features that is common in a specific usage. So there is no sense right now to pay extra money for it. So I'm not want to say that VMware has a trouble or they go into the KVM, but this commodity approach will a little bit change the perception when we will think about what type of the virtualization you use. And I think it's good because customers will much more focus on the higher level of the application level of the business level, how to delivering the business value, not the virtualization. So I see
agree.
it will be the same story with the servers. Right now, to be honest, nobody okay, maybe not nobody, but in the end, do we care what's inside you need the compute and you need the storage. You don't want to think right now what is the specific hardware working. You are much more focusing on the software and the services, and this is how the world is shifting and going on.
I agree, and I think the key word that you use is commodity, and that is definitely what we're saying. I mean, at some point, all those various layers will disappear into a mix of something, and there will still be infrastructure. I mean, I don't think the cloud will take over everything. I think that the data centers of our customers have still a long life in front of them. That's for sure, and it's the the whole question is at what pace will that go? I remember when I first saw VMware, I think it was VMware 2 or something, and I was like, yeah, but why would you want to do that? We have Solaris zones already. Why would you want to virtualize everything below that? That was, I don't know, that was a long time ago. But it was true. It was true at that time. I mean, zones or LPARs and all that were actually doing pretty much the same thing, giving you that flexibility already to some extent.
I
And
I still remember when I came to the data center, it was purple servers, like sun servers. I really miss that time, to be honest. I'm really, or more about the power and the HP Doom, but it happens. So it's a
yeah,
new
we
wave right now.
don't say that to the people listening. Now they're gonna think we are old people.
No, we are not. Mateusz also comment that coming back to our previous conversation, that take the data from the cloud to on-prem, cost and next thing performance can be poor. While RTO is high, it is important. So good comment. Thanks, Mateusz, for it. Definitely, we need to care about it because uh, of course, it's good to have the offsite copy when we're thinking about the 3-to-1 rule, but we need to remember how much time we will need to grab this data again if we'll need the restoration process.
and
Uh,
and
that,
and
that's why also that's why I also see that many customers badly design, not maybe only customers, but the partners or even the different vendors saying, just put the data into the object storage, but nobody cares how the restoration looks like. Okay, you achieved the secondary data, but you didn't achieve the automation of the restoration. And this is the actually a great point to close our conversation and going into the future. So we discuss a lot of about what's going right now between our companies. So I just want to close the phase that we started this cooperation. We are happy about to have this possibility to use the Storware technology and the Rubrik. Looking forward for the next years, what the future will bring for this cooperation. But just follow our companies to see. So closing this sentence, we have this possibility to integrate both technologies. But Nicolas, what actually, of course, what we can say to us, how in which direction we know that you are in a close in a data security path, zero trust, but what the future will bring from the Rubrik perspective, how you discuss this vision and the future with your existing customers, comparing even to the different players, because every vendor has its own, let's say, story and the future plans.
And I think it's I mean, something that we are very proud to be doing, in the sense that we want to go further down the route that we already started, in the sense that we provide the ability to know what happened. Is a ransomware in? What did it affect it? What type of data was there? Helping you actually find the last known good copy. And we can do that in a reactive way, but we can also help how the customer in a more proactive way. Actually, and you were mentioning the RTO, and Mateus was, and that is very valid. I mean, do you know really if your RTO are right? Have you tested them? How many times did you actually test your restore from A to Z from that critical application of yours? Have you tested it down to adding data into the application? Because just a ping, it doesn't tell you that the application is up. That just tells you that it replies to ping. You could have so many problems afterwards. And I had so many problems with that over the years, that testing, validating your application is key. That's something that we provide, but not as automated as we want it. And that's something that we want to move forward with. Really trying to bring, again, that idea of simplicity, that idea of automation, but bring that to RTOs, RPOs. Can you test your actual disaster recovery every week? Verify that, yes, I actually did say that it will take me 4 hours to recover. Can you be sure of it? Can you be sure that it will work no matter what? And if you test it and, well, it actually tells you that, well, it's going to be 5.5, what can you do about it? What are the steps that the application recovery is going through that are taking the longest time? What are the steps that you could potentially change? Because maybe you need to take the problem into another angle. Maybe you need to recover pieces of the application in a different pace at a different time, or differently, maybe. And that's really, I think, where we want to bring more value, really go a level up, and stop, as we just mentioned, stop focusing about the lower layer. I mean, backup is done, that's okay. The whole purpose of a backup is to recover your data, but recover accurate data, recover it in time, and ensure that it will work. And that is really the key thing. That's what we need to automate up to the right level for our customers. That will be the real value add. Telling you if you can recover, how long it will take, and what will be the end result.
Great. So let me sum up our conversation. So what I remembered, it's not that I'm not hearing, but let's grab some points. I love the sentence. Let's build the data and the vault sanctuary. So we need to think about, okay, this is the place where most of the hackers would like to be. So we need to put special carry attention. So we need to rethink about what should be the additional, let's say, security steps to protect it. Yes, even to do not simplify the way how the potential hackers could grab our, let's say, production data. Never trust the admin. So maybe not never, but let's
That will
always
go a long way.
yeah, not
Sorry
make
to
it
all the
all day.
admins on the call.
But let's validate, and this example that you said, I can make a wrong decision and change the retention. Maybe if I don't have the intention to destroy the data, but I can bring some bad coffee or without caffeine and just wake up and made some mistake. And
Exactly.
everybody made this mistake, especially humans. Everybody knows it. That more than 60% of the data loss is because of the human errors. So we need to keep reminded. So never trust ourselves, never trust Storware, never trust Rubrik, never trust even yourself. Always try to ask somebody else if I'm doing it wrong. So I'm thank you for that. What else? Try to put the data as close as your source. So philosophy to even bring the technology not always from the cloud to on-prem, but maybe put cloud to cloud. Why not? So think about about full indexing, especially in the Microsoft 365. We today spoke about it. It can give you the huge value, especially for the compliance point of view and the governance point of view.
Exactly.
So thanks for it. Remember about our cooperation, so the store between the Rubrik. So using the managed volumes SLAs, we can ingest the Rubrik with some new sources that Rubrik doesn't have today. So especially the KVM based hypervisors, so Proxmox, RHV, OpenStack, Scale Computing, and lots of different flavors that works. It's right now more than 10 different distribution that we can bring into the Rubrik based on our integration. So like I said, looking forward for lots of good success stories from the field. And what the future brings, and CSO, CIO, and CISO, much more closer, Nicolas. So thank you
Yes.
for that. This make a discussion not only about the technology, but make a business discussion, because the backups always touching the business continuity and the money behind. So every second can cost us lots of money. So if the
Yes.
backup vendor can help you to achieve the better RPOs and help you to achieve the restoration against the ransomware attacks, and this is what I know, the Rubrik is only one vendor on the on the world that gives you the guarantee on it. So it was a lot of in a press. So we need to emphasize this kind of the commitments, because it's important. And last thing, always, the future, how to build the proper DR and how to reuse and make assurance from that your data is fully recoverable. Not that we might thought that it is ready to recover, but actually how long the process takes. And
Yes.
are we assured that in case of any attack or being hacked, we have the assurance to bring our business, coming back online. So lots of good insight. This is if I need 3 minutes to sum up, we have lots of topic. We covered lots of topics, Nicolas.
Definitely.
Anything else you should add to my sum up?
No, I think we all need to, I mean, take that back home. It's all about the plan. You need to be sure that you have documented what needs to happen in the case of a disaster, any kind, cyber, physical, whatever happens. You need to have a plan. You need to have processes, and you need to have trained your people. I think that is really the key. We always forget about the people dimension in IT, and we shouldn't, because in the end, as you mentioned, we all humans. 60% of the actual issues happens because of someone that made a mistake, and that's the kind of thing that we can prevent as a whole if you actually take care of our people. I think that is really the key. Taking care of the people, training them, ensuring that they know what to do is already half the battle.
Great. So my guest was Nicolas Groh. So thank you. It was a Backupmonster Show. So it was a pleasure to catch up and discuss lots of good stuff. If you're just watching us on right now YouTube, and you don't need to be alive, but you can watch after that. Just put the comment inside. So to me or the Nicolas will give you all of the feedback. You can contact us via LinkedIn, via the private messages. So I encourage you to subscribe the Storware on LinkedIn or the different social media or the Rubrik. You will so definitely you will learn more about our alliances right now in the future. So again, Nicolas, so also it was a pleasure. Hopefully that the rain will stop in Lausanne and you will have a beautiful day. If not, let's go and hack some systems during your conference.
That would be fun.
Yeah, so all of the best for you, all of the best for all of the attendees that watching the Backupmonster Show. See you next month. My next guest, it's still confidential. You will hear in a week or maximum 2. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.